Yugioh! Legacy of the Duelist. LOD. Cool game. Wasn't my first Yu-Gi-Oh game. The other ones I played were I always forget the titles. There's a PS2 one, Game Boy Advance. I want to say like Duelist of the Roses, something World Champion, I Worldwide Edition. I don't know. The titles are kind of all over the place. So I've always played them, but I never really like played them. I don't know. It was so long ago. Like I went hard and I went far and probably beat them, I assume, or whatever. Spent a good time playing them. But I only really got them. Like, yeah, the games. I didn't really look at Yu-Gi-Oh as a video game just because it can be turned into a video game. I used to play when Yu-Gi-Oh first came out, so you know, I started with a starter deck, a Dark Magician starter deck, and my stepbrother, actually at the time, he's a little 3 years older. He had the blue eyes. It's probably one of the coolest gifts I ever got from the least likely person I would have ever expected to get anything from, but yeah, that's how that started. And then obviously it became, you know, booster packs, trading, going to local little tournaments at your entertainment store, and every Saturday or whatever, and hang out for a few hours, make some friends, battle, trade. But as far as the games go, I just respected it more as a card game, so I didn't really... wasn't too deep into the game part of it. I was also a lot younger, so like, you know, I knew what Yu-Gi-Oh was. I knew that it was a card game full through and through. But it wasn't until later when I did realize, like, the games aren't that bad. You know, when you take a card game, because obviously, like, Pokemon did it very differently. Yu-Gi-Oh really stuck to what it is, and I can kind of respect that. I don't know, I think a video game version of a card game is actually kind of cool. It wasn't until I started to get the games because of the cards where I was like, hey, these are actually pretty neat. The games are cool. Something besides the card game, besides the anime. And you get some pretty, you know, pretty cool cards out of it. Cards that not everyone had unless you got that game. And obviously these games aren't like cheap. You had GameStop, EB Games. Was that what it's called? Yeah, it is cool, especially just that chase. I just love that chase of like getting all the cards, having so much at your disposal, and all these new cards kept coming out. These new games kept coming out with the really pretty secret hollow, I forgot what they're called. Parallel holograms, holographics. Holy crap, it's been a minute. Secret rares, is that what you call them? Dude, there's so many different types of rarities, but yeah, pretty much the ones you could basically only get from getting these games. I don't know what was cooler, opening the game up, and it's funny because you're sitting there excited for this materialistic card, like something physical you can hold in your hands, which is great. If they were useful to you, add them to your deck, great. But Yeah, I think once you give the games an actual shot, they're actually pretty good. Who knew, right? Because the thing was, it was competing with Pokemon at the time, so I mean, obviously Pokemon games are really good. That's where they strive at, not so much the card game. The cards are gorgeous, but I never played the Pokemon TCG. I just couldn't take it seriously, and it was just confusing. It wasn't really. I think especially as a kid, like I don't know if it was very friendly to understand. When Yu-Gi-Oh first came out, it was a little more fresh and it was a little more, you know, read the description, pretty straightforward, learn the basics. Like Yu-Gi-Oh at its prime, first gen and all that, when it first came out, was so easy. You just 4 stars, tributes, it was they really helped you a lot with reading the text. And even though the cards were smaller, the text was smaller. I think even at a young age like that, you know, you're reading, you're learning. That's what you do every day in school or whatever, right? So it was easy to catch on, especially when you're getting involved in communities, and you know, they can teach you if that was really a part of it, or the games can teach you, your friends that you play with. Yeah, I definitely wasn't like on YouTube learning how to play Yu-Gi-Oh at the time. Oh, that is weird to think about. So basically, coming back to this game after all this time, I did recently get back into the card game for a while, spent a bunch of money on getting all those older cards back, first gen, whatever. Vintage, they're counted as vintage cards now. But this was the first modern-ish Yu-Gi-Oh video game that I've been able to get my hands on in a long time on a modern console. Modern graphics, you know, so it's kind of cool to really just kind of jump back in, because I think with the Holy Trinity, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, I don't know, it's tough because you either, as you're growing, you either stick with it or it kind of dies out for a while, but it's never really gone. It's just, you know, you're dealing with so much. So yeah, especially as an adult and getting older, is really nice to just kind of play again, and a lot of very nostalgic, very. It's weird playing on a PS4, especially on a PS5. You know, when it's been so like PS2, Game Boy Advance was just forever ago. If there was any like after those, after that era, and before now, I would have missed out on it completely. And I know that on PlayStation, this is the only Yu-Gi-Oh game you can really get your hands on, besides Master Duelist, but I never even bothered with that. And there's actually a better version of this game. I didn't play that because I played this first, so by the time that came out, I was already kind of like, you know, I did what I wanted to do in the game and was happy with it. Yeah, it's Dual Links or something. Or there's the advanced, there's like the better version of this game. I think there's like more stuff in it. I don't really remember the differences, but they're literally the same thing. It's kind of like the same example with Gundam versus like the better version of that, Gundam Maxi Boost or something. You know, they kind of just repackage it and kind of, it's better. The differences are probably so subtle, like some slight changes here and there, that's about it. Basically, it's the same game. So I didn't really bother with that. But yeah, between this game and then the better version of this, and then the Master Duelist, that was a lot more recent, actually. Yeah, I just love when these animes make a comeback, you know? They're like, hey, remember when you were a kid, and we know you're an adult now, and you're kind of living your life. Don't forget about Yu-Gi-Oh! We're gonna bring it back. I don't know, it's just pretty cool. It makes you really never forget who you were and are and where you came from and your roots and memories. Because I think it's one of those things where you either leave it fully behind or you don't. Because maybe people just got sick of it, or they just clearly moved on to, you know, like, oh, you kid stuff, anime, Japan, blah. Some people are like that. They just, you know, stop caring. And it's pretty sad because this is a big part of, I think, a child's development. And you never really, you always hear you're always gonna be that inner child. You know, that's we can be an adult and do all these things and grow up, but we're never really like, you don't ever really forget. So but yeah, the game itself, cutscenes are cool. I don't know if I'd call them cutscenes. There's zero voice acting in the game. Which, you know, it works. Because it's just Yu-Gi-Oh, right, dude? If you want to listen to voice acting, just go watch the show. But I wish there was more in it. The thing with Yu-Gi-Oh games, at least the ones that I've been able to experience, I don't think they've ever had voice acting in them. You know, especially when you're thinking this as something, you know, maybe you can get away with that on the PS2, but even like the Game Boy Advance, nothing. Because it's about the card game, it's about, you know, the cards, the collection, the strategies, the builds, the decks. It's still very much the show. Good music, great music. Every Yu-Gi-Oh game has had such goddamn good music in it, I swear to God. Like, even this game, the music's fucking fantastic. It's pretty low-key, but it's so chill, it's so vibey, and so, like... There's really only, like, a few different tracks, if you really narrow it down, but... You know, what music they did put into here, oh, it works so well. It has to, right? Because you're playing the card game. This is the game. There's nothing else to it. Yes, there's a bunch of cards. They do still, you know, draw the people. It's just like the show, shot for shot. And the thing with this game, they've covered like every season. Was that the only difference with the newer game? Is that it covered V-Reigns or something? I don't know. But basically, yeah, you have, what, 5 different generations here to work with. What are their names? Yusuke, Jaden? Dude, I'm not even... the new Yu-Gi-Oh! is just not for me. I'll watch it and mess around and check it out, or, you know, but... I just stopped playing so long ago, and the game has evolved so much where... You're not just thinking about a beatdown deck anymore, you're thinking like... Even fusion summoning was one thing, but when it started to get to pendulum and blah blah blah, holy cow, dude, it's too much, man. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still cool as shit, dude, but I look at it more like... I miss it, I love it, I'll always love it, I'll always miss it. It's a part of me, who I am, I'm a part of it. All these things, I was there, I was involved, you know, really into it. But man, today, no, forget it. It's just gotten to that point where it's just too much, man. Pokemon did the same thing. You know, thankfully Digimon has kept a very respectable, they really stayed true to what they're doing. The kids are older now, whatever, all these things, but it's... The Digimon games are great. There's a lot of Digimon I don't know and care for, but, you know... The new Pokemon is just crap. It's ugly, nasty, little creatures, dude. So yeah, I'm very biased towards the old school, traditional, first gen. I know that sounds kind of pretty boomer, but you just can't beat it, man. They're the boss. They're the OGs, the original gangsters. Dude, you had Blue Eyes, Dark Magician, Yugi. You had all the booster sets. When the cards were still called magic cards and instead of spell cards, and its whole rivalry with Magic the Gathering. You know, Saturday morning cartoons. It's just not the same today. It's just how it is, and that's fine. You know, as long as kids get to enjoy it now and experience it for themselves, and even if it's newer, they're still gonna understand that the old stuff is the best. That's what started it all. That's kind of the creation. And yeah, it's a legacy, dude. Legacy of the Duelist, man. And it's not just because I was there. I just happened to be there. That's where I was lucky. Is like, I wasn't really a full-grown adult yet. I wasn't too like, oh, Yugioh cool. I was just perfect age. I got to Yu-Gi-Oh, all of them. I got to like really experience it at the perfect time. I'm so happy with that. I think I'm pretty lucky and fortunate to have been a part of these things the way that I was. Like, you know, no matter what I do in life, I know that whether I became a pro Pokemon player, or, you know, a pro Yu-Gi-Oh player, or I know the Digimon TCG isn't as popular, but just watching the animes as they grow up, as you see them grow, and as I grow, and these movies keep coming out. Yu-Gi-Oh's been doing a lot of movies lately. Well, not lately, but you know, ever since the first movie, which I saw in theaters. Yeah, I'm glad I played this because it was a paid-for game. It wasn't free like Master Duelist, you know, just some online PvP game. I'm not really into that. But here you got to be Yugi. Dude, they had everyone. Mokuba, Joey, Mai, Weevil, Mako, Pegasus, Ty, Tristan. Did I say Joey already? Joey? Everybody. All the rare hunters like Arcana, Merrick, fucking whatever everyone else's name is. Yeah, it's really cool. Honestly, I only played the first I beat it, which was really fun, by the way. I beat so there's 5 generations. Yu-Gi-Oh! DX, GX, Zex. I think Zexel's in here. What's that kid's name? Yami? Or no, not Yami. It was very close to Yami, Yugi. But yeah, I only did the first part. I didn't beat the whole fucking game, dude. That's a lot. They give you a lot of content here. Like, if you've been keeping up with Yu-Gi-Oh! And you still know how to play, you know all the rules today. Well, you're keeping up with it, you're following Yu-Gi-Oh! You know all the banned cards. You can probably go pretty far with this game, a lot further than I did. I wish I would have been able to just follow through with doing more, but I didn't. I just couldn't do it. I played what I wanted to, and I was pretty happy with it. Because that's the coolest, funnest stuff, is just to make your own little beatdown deck. You're not spending too much time putting cards together. It's very time consuming. You gotta put your decks together, read all the descriptions. I was just like, you know what, dude, I'm gonna use what I used to have and just leave it at that. It sucks making decks like that though, because you wish you could be as cool as like Mai, and she's got her harpies, Kaiba's got his blue eyes, his dragons, fiends. You know, Yugi's got his magicians, Mako's sea monsters, Weevil's insects, Arcana's magicians, Merrick's Egyptian themed cards. Ty's fucking random cards. Or no, not, well yeah, Ty too, right? Just a bunch of fairies. Tristan's random cards, little manly cards. Joey's, wacky, cartoony stuff, you know, Pegasus's Toon deck. Yeah, pretty fun. They had everything in here. Like, there's nothing missing. You know, you can still do field spells, and you got all your traps and magic cards, and you get booster packs. The more you play, the more you get. But yeah, I just did the first gen. I did it all from the top. I beat Merrick at the end. And then what I also did, which was harder, was you actually switch characters. So let's say you fight, and you're fighting a lot of these people multiple times. Let's say you fight Kaiba. Now you have to be Kaiba and then fight Yugi. When you were Yugi fighting Kaiba. So you play against his blue eyes bullshit. Blue eyes, wah. And then when you're him, you fight Yugi stuff, which is a whole different ballgame, because you're gonna kind of fight everyone anyway. But that's the beauty of when you do reverse duels, is that I forgot the order. With, you know, I wasn't writing everything down or analyzing it too much, but like, that's how you're gonna really be able to make use of that. If you're, especially if you're so generation focused, that's how you're gonna make the best use of that generation. If you want to play all of them into all, dude, it gets hard. You know, it's not easy. You definitely, that's the thing. You can start out with a beatdown deck if you really want to, just an easy, simple way to get into it. But eventually, you are gonna have to like actually give a shit, change up your cards, change up your strategies, have things that actually work out well, have multiple decks, have all the cards you can possibly get your hands on. It's a lot, dude. I love these games, but man, I would rather deal with all the cards themselves physically and learn it that way than deal with the games, because it is messy. It's just everywhere. It's somewhat categorized, but it's a lot. You're sitting there, instead of playing, you're reading most of the time. At least with cards, dude, you can kind of just chill and like, you're not playing game and you're not forced to like do this or that. But yeah, and I tried some of the newer stuff. I couldn't really get too far, which does suck, because it's like, okay, I'm still sitting here like, I want to be a master duelist, I want to be the best, but I'm not willing to go that far. So it's kind of frustrating, even just having the game and you know, but I'd have to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh like full circle, full time, just to be able to have a chance at playing the rest of the game, because it's a lot, man. You know, every generation has new summons, new mechanics, new rules, new cards, new monsters, traps, spells. Like, I think it's really cool. You use 10 different cards to get one card, dude. It's crazy. The type of things you have to do just to, like, really pull out these big, powerful cards. And granted, the old stuff is OP as shit. But these newer cards, man, they can do things that, you know, are pretty wild. I know they're newer and they're not as cool or good or whatever, but they're... One thing they never really lacked on was just the power. They're getting stronger, they're getting bigger. Are a lot of them just rehashes and... I wouldn't say reskins, but, you know, basically more or less of the same shit, but they just look different. They... different names, different abilities, different effects, rather. You know, whatever, right? It just, things like this, they go on for so long, they get diluted, they get overdone. There's too much of it. You know, the cards that were special aren't really special anymore. Like, they'll always be remembered and go down in history, Exodia, for example. But you just don't get that here. You just, with the newer stuff, and it's just a shame to see a game that offers all of this. And it sucks for someone like me who's like really only interested in like a fifth of it, literally. Maybe some GX. I don't mind some fusion summoning. Fusion's pretty fun. But even when it really gets into the fusioning, you're not even thinking a simple polymerization. You know, getting Gaia the Fierce Knight or the Curse, Gaia the Curse, or whatever the hell. You're not even thinking that far. It does go a little bit further than that, but just barely. Like, it's still manageable, I think. Fusion summoning's great. I could honestly say that fusioning's probably my favorite thing, because you're combining two different monsters and making something brand new out of it, combining forces and teaming up, and I think that's really powerful and special. Two is better than one. I think fusions are just really fun in general, whether it's in Yu-Gi-Oh or elsewhere. It's just something I respect and hold in high regards. Gameplay is pretty fun. Yeah, very time consuming. I think once you start it up and you get into it, you know, you're willing to put in that time, look around, check things out, see how it all works. The funny thing is, you don't even have to build your own deck. You can use the decks that the story gives you of the characters you're playing. You know, whether it is Yugi, whether it's fucking whoever, right? Like, you don't have to do shit, which is kind of crazy to think about, but obviously it's a lot cooler if you use your own deck, your own cards. Put the time in, you know, figure it out, be willing to actually make it your own, and that's what's special about these cards, is that's what you can do. Matches your personality, your theme, your style. You know, am I gonna go... Have I ever gone as far as like the main characters? Like, oh, I'm gonna have a all ninja deck, you know, or all magician deck, or even still, that's kind of their thing, so it's tough to kind of latch that onto your... You can still do it though, or you just have a bunch of cool, really overpowered cards. Magical Cylinder, Mirror Force, Summon Skull. Just these like ridiculously like, you know, I just want to duel, get the fucking duel over with and be done and move on, man. Like, you know, I'm not here to like fuck around and try to duel for like an hour, dude. I love it, but I mean, Jesus, I'm not gonna make it more complicated than it has to be. I mean, the cool thing is you can do that. It's a card game, man. That's what these are for, is like, you can really go pretty hard. Is there a point to it? Not really. I mean, you can be cool, you can be that complicated card guy who just knows all the ins and outs of the cards and is really good, and which, hey, a lot of shout out to those guys, man. Those guys who are kind of willing to go that extra mile, and you know, they're really smart, and they really know how to put these cards together and do their homework, and I think it's pretty cool, man. I've always been too lazy for that, but hey. Yep, there's a rock, paper, scissors, Rochambeau. Who goes first? The stories are basically the shows, so you're getting, you know, a solid story out of each thing you do. Follows the show very well, actually. It's kind of cool. Yeah, they didn't really leave anything out. It's all here. Time consuming. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh game. If you've played any Yu-Gi-Oh games before, this is just another one, you know. But obviously, it is gonna look a little prettier and somewhat better animations, and it's always a shame that these games don't get as much. I really, you know, to play like a AAA Yu-Gi-Oh game, like full-on voice acting, cutscenes, you know, really good animations. This is a game I'd like to see go further than it ever has before, but it's always just, the games just don't get supported enough, and, you know, they're only there for the fans, and I don't think they're ever really gonna expect to get anywhere further than where they've ever been, which is kind of sad, but be nice to see, you know. You know, I just think it takes people, very particular people, to support these games the way that they need to be, so they can make better ones. That's really all it takes, and people just aren't willing to, even as much money as Yu-Gi-Oh makes, and the cards, and the shows, the merch, everything that they do, the franchise, you know, unless the games themselves are doing that great, this is all we're gonna get. It's just kind of these bare minimum, you know, hey, it's still Yu-Gi-Oh! Be thankful you get a game out of it, you know, for the video game crowd, the audience. There's a good chance if you if you like Yu-Gi-Oh! At all, you've played the games, you've watched the show, you've played the card game. Yeah. So it's cool for me. It's not a game that they're expecting to reach a super huge audience, AAA, high caliber, you know, good quality, big studio. But it's a very niche, underdog, underrated, because I even think there's a lot of people that know of Yu-Gi-Oh! But, I mean, obviously, you know, the only people that are gonna like it are the weebs. It's a very boyish game. It's a very, you know, you had to kind of get into it at an early age, I think, especially back then. You know, even a lot of kids and stuff might be into it nowadays, but I think they are gonna look at it a little bit differently versus like how I look at it, obviously, but which is fine. I don't know. I'd like to see Yu-Gi-Oh go further and do more, but we gotta be thankful for what we get, hands down. So yeah, this is definitely a good addition to. It really complements the movies. It complements the things that are still coming out. This is very much a live franchise. But just like with a lot of things that's been around for a minute, it's always just gonna kind of hang by a thread, and you know, it's unfortunate. I just hate to see these things like kind of die out. You know, like Pokemon gets so much attention, and even Pokemon is slipping. But yeah, I wish more people would focus on Digimon and Yu-Gi-Oh! More than Pokemon, and it'd be nice to see. There's only so much I can do about it, and, you know, spread the good word and do what I can, but hey, it's how things are. If there's more I'd be able to do about it, I'd do it easily, for sure. Do what I can and just go from there, you know. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist. I don't know. What else is there? A lot of different settings. You get Battle City, you get the Duelist Kingdom. There's like a robot that narrates everything. Or not narrates, but, you know, aside from just the characters talking themselves. And gotta admit though, the artwork is very good. Like, you know, it's a really clean, nice presentation here. You got really well rendered characters who, they're not cutscenes, but they do, like, you know, move their lips and mouth, and they pop up and back, and just standard Japanese kind of formula. Yeah. Cool thing about this game though is that if you were ever to get into the other stuff, you have this game available, ready to go. You know, if you ever, it's not hard to decide one day, like, hey, I'm gonna become this full-fledged Yu-Gi-Oh guy again. It's very much possible. Just depends on, like, hey, with what I'm doing right now, is this the direction I'm gonna be able to go in? So yeah, you get a lot of bang for your buck, a lot of content, a lot of you know, which is pretty cool. You know, and especially if you don't mind PvE, I think there's a multiplayer mode for this. I honestly don't know, because I know there's like the phone game, the mobile game as well, and obviously Master Duelist is free. Yeah, I definitely don't look at that PvP thing quite the same way, because I enjoy the story, I enjoy the atmosphere, the characters, the music, the, you know, the settings, all that. I don't really care for it. Yes, you get the cards out of it, but, you know, then you gotta ask yourself, well, am I really this, like, competitive person? What do I have to prove? Like, am I really better than anyone? Unless I'm willing to, like, compete professionally, what the hell's the point, dude? I don't know, dude. I think stuff like that, it's fun to mess around with, but I think beyond that, it's like, whatever, you know? If there's no end game there, there's just no point. You know, yes, we're human, we can kind of experiment and do whatever we want and try things out, but Yu-Gi-Oh is something that you gotta commit a lot of time to, and effort, energy, and follow through, and I think you just have a better chance at either using the user decks, making your own little deck, playing some of the game, making use out of getting it at all and paying for it, and just kind of enjoy it while you can. Say that you played it, get to brag about it, no big deal. Better to have played it than not played it at all. You know, makes for conversation. Yeah, nostalgia. You just get a lot out of it. You can't really sit there and be like, you know, this sucks, or... But yeah, like, the game's not perfect, sure. It's still very... There's a lot going on, but it's just a matter of you paying attention and willing to kind of... Because it's one of those games where it might be a little too easy to pick up and put down, or you just really gotta stick with it, and you gotta be patient. I think that's all Yu-Gi-Oh has ever been, is just have patience and understanding. You know, do you look up to the show enough to want to be as powerful as these guys, you know, to want to be the best, to make a mark, to have at least tried, or you know, that's what a lot of it is the show, especially, is determination, courage, bravery. You know, don't give up. Yeah. This was a good one. If I ever do play that other version of this, you know, I guess there's that, but for a long time now, and for who knows how much longer, this is about it for Yu-Gi-Oh for now, right now. So, which is fine. You know, there's other games out there, and I'm just glad this was one of the games that I have and was able to play, and it was a good time. Yeah. Things like this, I gotta show some extra love to, because it means a lot more to me than most games mean to me, so... Just a little bit more special. A little bit more of, like, who I am, and trying to figure out, have this understanding of what I'm trying to do here and what I'm playing, and the whole, like, not giving up, not giving up on Yugioh, not giving up on yourself, always remembering who you really are, and you know, good things, good messages, good this game's just really good at kind of helping, guiding you along the way as you're growing up in this world. So yeah, it's time to duel.